Thank you so much, Stephen, and thank you, Phil, earlier. I think we've got the basis of what the industry needs, and Steve very well articulated what digitalization means in industry and what it brings for businesses, both small and big. Everyone can benefit from it. So I'm going to be presenting in basic form about Aerospace 4.0 and digitalizing systems that can enable Aerospace 4.0. And I'll explain this in just a bit. So, Valuechain, we're a digital manufacturing company, and we started out in 2011. Over the course of our journey, we've worked with several businesses, we've solved problems with them, and that learning has gone into our software, which is then fed back into SMEs who use the software and then benefit from it. Today, I'm going to talk about the digitalization journey and the want for Industry 4.0. So I'm going to introduce you to Jonathan. So that's Jonathan. Jonathan is an SME owner that works in the aerospace sector. Jonathan had a very stable business and everything was doing well for him up until one day he woke up and the world was talking a different language. Everyone was talking about this Industry 4.0 and digitalization, and he didn't quite understand what that means for him. But his suppliers demanded more from him, his customers were demanding things that fall under the Industry 4.0 category, and so he decided he needs to go out and buy some Industry 4.0 for himself and his business. And so what he did was he tried learning about it, he tried to get hold of some material, and he said, well, look, I'm just going to go for it, and I'm going to take a leap of faith, and I'm just going to go and find it. During his trajectory, he realized that he's a bit off from where he needs to be, and he finds himself landing in the waters. Now the problem is the waters have separate sharks, and the sharks here is a metaphor for falling prey to your own ambitions. You learn about Industry 4.0, you learn about connected robots and additive manufacturing and all of this artificial intelligence, and you try and want that, but the reality is it's a few steps away, and you need to do some ground laying work before you can get there. And if it's not handled well, it can have serious repercussions on your business. I was learning about a business the other day that were doing just fine, but they learned about Lean and Six Sigma ideology. They got all the expertise in and they tried working towards it, but the reality is it just didn't suit their business, which killed it. So you need to really understand what works best for you. So let's try and understand why this has happened to him. Now Jonathan is an SME owner, and SMEs have quite a few challenges. There are loads of things that are happening at the same point. Some of them will be the cash flow, so you're constantly thinking about money coming into the business. You're thinking about money's coming in, but are we really making profits? Next, you're looking at performance. So are you getting good results out of what you're doing? The heart of any business is definitely people. So investing in people, looking at their training, making sure they're right for business, making sure the fit is right. Finally, the equipment and the plant. Is it maintained properly? Is it running all the time? Can I get more business? Is my equipment ready there to support that? And there has to be robust business processes. So to take dependency out of people and plant, you need to make sure that the process can work around things that you need doing. Now when you do business, it's not just yourself and what you can do, but you work with a lot of different partners. You work with your suppliers, you work with external parties, and so you have to look at your business on the whole and not just what sits inside your factory shop floor. And finally, if you've got all of these things together, you need to make sure you've got a good customer relationship, you're maintaining your pipeline, you've got repeatable business. And at the center of it all is the technology. I would say in some sense, you could treat it as the novelty of how do you do business and what wins you all of those contracts, but also the technology that commands and connects all together on your factory shop floor. The reality is that SMEs are tight for time and money, and everybody's firefighting, right? You're always reacting to things that fall on you. But the true benefit is when you stop working on these firefighting situations and take a step back, look at where the business is going, look at what is required for the business to do better, and really work on those specific points. So the point is, don't work in your business, work on your business. I'll take a second here to talk about the revision D that came out in September 2016, and most of the aerospace businesses today are working towards achieving them. Now, to boil it all down, it's essentially about compliance and keeping your processes in shape. What does that give us? That gives us an avenue where, if done right, it could be an excellent opportunity. You're compliant, all your processes are verified, and everybody wants to work with you because that's exactly what they want. But if that is not done right, or if there are a few things that you're doing just to tick a box rather than in principle and in spirit, then it might be compliance risk. If our work is not done right the first time, it can cause a huge damage to your business and can be very expensive to get out of as well. Again, I'll just elaborate on 6 differences that have come about in Revision B as opposed to Revisions B, and I won't be very boring about it, but what I'm really trying to say is, usually you had a quality manager and it was his responsibility to look at the quality management system. Revision B brings about a case where the whole company and everybody who's involved in the whole process has a part to play in quality. And what that does is it decentralizes it. So instead of one person going around and collecting all of that information, everybody is responsible for what they do in the business. With the same spirit, a greater involvement of leadership. So they need to cast their shadow on the business and make sure that they have complete and close alignment with the quality management system and how it's being maintained in the company. Now, we all have heard of this cycle, plan, do, check, act. Actually, we've thought about this a little, and I think plan here could mean 2 things. So everyone plans for success. We have a plan of how we're going to achieve things, how we're going to do things. And we do them, we check our offset from desired results from what we've achieved, and then we revise ourselves and we continually optimize. But I think what's important here is to realize you also plan for failure. So introducing a risk-based thinking. What if things don't turn out the way we want them to turn out? What is our plan of mitigation against that? You perform them and you optimize it continually. So that's something I wanted to point out. And finally, it's more emphasis on monitoring the processes, taking advantage of new technologies, making sure real-time data is being fed in, it's being analyzed, and really understanding what is happening on the factory shop floor. So you could have a number of contracts coming in, you could be producing day in and day out, but if you actually analyze, you could go right down to whether it's adding any benefit to your bottom line, whether it's really bringing in profits. So this is, from our perspective, this is what a value chain of a typical aerospace business might look like. So you're right over here in the center, right? And you've got all of these processes that run day in and day out. And most of the businesses are quite confident that they all work well. If you've got your own business nailed down, what you need are 2 conduits. A conduit that connects you to your suppliers. Are you constantly talking to them? Are there feedbacks? What is your working relationship with them? Do you analyze the kind of performance your suppliers have been having? So you need that conduit right down here, which we call a supplier portal, a way of sharing data and communicating with them. And if these 2 things fit well, then you need another conduit that gives that information to your customer, gives them visibility of what is happening. You've contracted us work, this is how it's going to be performed, these are the processes in place, these are the people that are going to be delivering those things, and this is what a good system might look like. Now, what does Industry 4.0 mean in this situation? So usually when we go out and hear about Industry 4.0, you think about robots and factory shop floor, and it's mostly around production and maybe a little bit of engineering in there. But I want to highlight a few things. I'm going to take a few examples here and say how Industry 4.0 or its enabling technology, so digitalizing yourself, can have an impact on some of the other things. So let's start with sales and marketing. I've got a few notes down, making sure I don't miss anything. So from sales and marketing point of view, let's look at pipeline management. Let's look at sales order processing. Do you have all the right processes that make it work? You can go out and order for a work, but is that work right for you? Does it really fit with your core, or are you actually going to lose money? Are you making sure that you're promising the customer something that is actually going to make you money, or if you run at the risk of not doing it correctly and that might be a huge damage to your business? How do you do your contract reviews? How do you make sure that it's being registered and logged properly and it can be reviewed at any point? And also, you can get ambitious with your sales and marketing. So do you actually have the capacity to deliver what you're bringing in? It's all of these different things that, that one thing that is common in all of this is there are different parties that decide these things. So capacity is a communication that comes in from someone else, and there's a sales and marketing team, the decision makers, and there needs to be intelligence and data sharing between all of those things. And digital technology can actually help you manage that. Like Phil said earlier, so there are collaboration is happening, but it still is in silos, right? The problem with any big organization today, big or small organization, it gets siloed the more it tries to expand. So engineering is looking at quality while purchasing is looking at bringing the price down, and there's a constant conflict, and there are mixed signals that are going out to companies. Let's look at engineering. So one of the major things in engineering could be new product introduction, for that matter, Phil. Do you have a structured gated process? Are you, and you introduce new products every, let's say, a couple of years. Are you learning from what you did last time and not making the same mistakes again? Are you really trying to cut down time on it? What's the accountability? How are you capturing lessons learned? How are you looking at the risks that other parties and other suppliers bring to the overall project? Again, using digital technology and making sure there's a log of communication, making sure there is constant feedback and connectivity between all the different parties can help you automate capturing some of that intelligence and then distributing it to people who are involved in it. From a purchasing point of view, it could be a case of spend management, so look at authorization. So does the person who's approved this purchase authorized to do that? Whose responsibility is it? What's the log? When was this authorized? Also, there might be other intelligence about a particular supplier you've just given some work to that wasn't considered when this was done. Again, going back to the simple case of, if you come at the end of the week, I'm going to forget what happened on the first day of the week. And so it's a case of, can you lay out carpet, can you lay out a background structure which captures things whenever it is done, which boils it down, analyzes it, and gives that intelligence to everybody else who needs to learn about that. Same thing goes for production. You've got people working on the factory shop floor, and they might know the job that's coming to them, but do they know what's the next job that's coming through? Everyone does job splitting, but how do you make sure that the traceability is intact and you can pull it all back together for compliance purposes? And it's little things like that. If someone's working with hazardous material, or there is a critical quality document that they need to read, how do you make sure that they are reading it every time before they perform that task? How do you know that a particular person who is performing a very specific task actually has the skills that are necessary and is trained on it, and the certificates are valid at that point? And it's all of these different things that are usually either overlooked or are handled very, very manually. And again, so coming back to my point of using digital technology, which tracks every bit of progress within your factory shop floor, can enable you to put checks in place to make sure a particular step cannot be performed before a critical plan is reviewed, before the right person with the right skills is in place, and things like that. And finally, down to quality. So, I mean, if you're digitally measuring your audits every now and then, you can look at the progress that you've made. You can pass it on to your suppliers. In terms of quality, you could even venture out into things like, in modern day supply chains, it's very important, conflict minerals, modern day slavery. How do you ensure that you're compliant to all these different things? You know, and how do you make sure that these are regular checks that are being performed? And how have you improved this? Another thing could be digital readiness level. I personally think, and if I'm not going too fast even, that digital readiness level will almost be a badge that companies will wear in the future. You need to do business with me not just because I can perform what you want me to, I can do what you want me to do, but also because I'm a digitally ready company. I make sure I am measuring all the information that you would need from me in the Industry 4.0 era, and I can give it back to you. And that is why, that is another strong why you should work with me. Right. So, if you ask a lot of smaller manufacturers, because it is such a cutthroat industry, manufacturing is not easy today. They're tied of resources, they're tied of money, and again, most of them are firefighting. Do they do all of these different things? Well, some of yeah, they do it all invisible, but if you really take down the list with 100 points, they say, well, some of these we don't do. So the reality is some of people don't actually do it. They let them run through. Some of them might do it, but it's a very manual process, so it's either paper-based, there's a paper log every day, then it's filed and kept in drawers forever, and no one ever looks at it, no one's analyzing it, no one's really looking at the trends. Some of the people actually use some general software which they think is appropriate for the job, and it does great. So Microsoft Excels and projects and other things are great for doing all that, but they're very general purpose software. And we spoke about how things need to fit your DNA, how things need to really align with your business, right? What that does is, maintaining spreadsheets and other things is first of all taking up a lot of your workforce's time. People are constantly updating sheets, sending it back and forth, and then finally when you have to present them, you're looking for the most up-to-date version, and you go back through your emails and other things. And also, something that gets missed out over here is the knowledge and intelligence that is held within individuals. So I have great knowledge and visibility into what is happening, but there is no way of sharing that through these softwares. And I think this is where digital technology can help. It can really help you optimize and make more money when you try and understand how this kind of analysis is being spread across the business. So how do you do this? Let's go out and buy myself an ERP system, and that's going to fix everything in my business, right? And that's what people think, because I can just go out and there's several ERP and MRP companies, and I will go and buy a system that will probably fix all of my problems. But there could be a few things that go wrong in there. So one of those things could be too vanilla flavored. It's just focused on this one process, but I do X, Y, and Z other things which it doesn't handle, and so it doesn't really suit my needs. So that could be a thing. Another one could be, here's a great digital solution, but actually this is just not suited for my DNA. And so I'm trying to shoehorn this amazing digital system which I've spent money on, so everybody has to use it. But I think there was a mention earlier about the workforce is just not driven to use it. Or I've got this massive equipment to do this small task, and again, it's too many steps, things that are not required, and I'm filling those out now and then. You might find something that fits your business very, very well, and something that does just the job you want, but if there's no knowledge sharing, then you're failing the purpose of using digital technology. Because it's not just a case of replacing spreadsheets with a system that looks better, it's a case of how you're analyzing and what that means for your business. And what does that tell you about your business? And this is supposed to be a concrete mixer, by the way. So, you could have a great system, right? It does just what you want, and it really helps you optimize things on your shop floor, but it's set in concrete. So it's immovable, you can't change it. The industry is moving, people are asking for more and more things from you, but you can't seem to get yourself out of it, and it's really restricting your work at some point. So even though people realize, all right, I've got to spend some money and get myself a system, I think these are things that they need to consider when they're looking at these systems. So you can get something that's very fuel efficient, you don't have to pay a lot for, it gets you from A to B, does just the job that you want it to do. Or you can get something more fancy, something with a little more bells and whistles, and you take pride in spending a little more money at this point in time because it's the best in class and it's considered the best. The reality is, industry is changing. Our understanding of what those changes are is continuously evolving, and there will always be new things that you need to add to your business, to your understanding, and to these systems. And what you'll end up with, doesn't matter what you choose, is something that is weighing your business down because it wasn't what it was meant to be, and you've plugged, bolted different systems on it, and they all don't run well together, and it will start weighing you down, and it will start pulling you back. This is another important one. So most of the system right now might be on life non-spreadsheet-like support. So it's fine. I've got a system. It's not up to date, but as long as you can create a spreadsheet, I can get my system to do that. Go back and ask your employees. Employees hate spreadsheets, right? If you still have to maintain a spreadsheet after putting a system in place, you're kind of failing the point right here, right? That's me. Okay, and just, this one's very, very important. So I want to connect this back to speaking about SME challenges and Jonathan and how busy he is in looking at all the different things that are going wrong, firefighting, or the different things he has to think about in terms of cash flow, where's the business come from. And so you could get caught up in working really, really hard. There might be easier solutions and easier ways of doing it out there, but at what point can you, as an SME owner, as a person with command over that business, can choose to look up, step back, and find easier things to plug into your business, right? And it's very difficult to say, well, I'm not going to focus on sales today. I'm just going to sit here and think about what is digital technology and how can I bring it to it. That's probably not what we're going to do. And so the phrase that Tom said to me yesterday about this was, the most difficult thing is to change the fan belt when your engine's still running. And I think that explains this perfectly well. When you're in this race of winning more business, making sure your work's doing well, you don't have time to step back and think about all these fancy systems that are out there and really vet them as to whether they work for you or not. But there might be a few steps you could take, there might be a few things you could do to start yourself on this journey. So if you're a business owner that is really tied up, wants to embrace digital technology, wants to understand, there could be a structured way of approaching this, and this is what I'm going to talk about next. So, finally I've come to the point of what I was going to say. Industry 4.0, everyone's seen this. We've gone through different stages of industrialization, and while automation, a dear colleague pointed out earlier, was a part of third industrial revolution, I think actual and real automation is the connectivity between different systems and letting them run coherently with each other can be put under the fourth industrial revolution. It's because it's enabling you to finally go down to the side of physical systems that look really fancy and you want to achieve them. So it's that enablement that you need to really focus on. And while there are a few things missing on here, I'm sure we all can point out things that, you know, it's not put down here. From an aerospace point of view, I'm sure everyone's seen the Industry 4.0 diagram. I think a few things down here are very, very important. So additive manufacturing, which is changing the way things are being produced right now, big data and analysis, augmented reality for training and other things. And so what I'm trying to say is Industry 4.0 has brought us a lot of different things which definitely add value. So how do you go about it? We come back to Jonathan. Jonathan's decided that the water's too cold. I'm not going to take a leap of faith. What can Jonathan do? The most important thing is laying a solid foundation, right? So if you go out and ask a small business owner, they think digitalization, Industry 4.0, that's probably a £5 million investment and I'm not ready for that, right? What you need, and there is a massive risk of failure. What if the digital solutions don't work for me? What if my workforce doesn't start using it? So we need to start by laying foundation. Is your business sustainable? Your quality cost delivery under control? Do you have processes around them, right? What is your work culture of the company? Are you constantly looking to improve yourself? So this is the people part, where you can bring in any technology you want, but if the people are not thinking in line, then it's not going to work. And you need to nail these things down first. Once you do that, then you can start looking at a few basic systems. Production control, it's just going to make my work, my shop floor paper-free, fine. First simple step, I can implement that because all of these things are in line. Once I do that, then now I want to take a step further. I want to understand how my machine's being used. Is there any way of bringing in some predictive maintenance? Is there any way of bringing in some data and understand how many hours a day is my machine running? How many hours a day is my workforce working on these things? What you get out of that is some sort of business intelligence, and that business intelligence could be mobile. So you could be out here or up in London doing meetings, trying to understand with your partners of how you can improve what you're already doing, but you can still pull up your phone and look at what's going on factory shop floor, right? What is the work in process? What is the contracted amount already? Where does your business actually sit, right? So this is what it enables, and this is all basic stuff. This is not even starting on your 4.0. But what this does is it de-risks yourself from failure. So now you've got a solid foundation. You can start to step back and think about the digitalization of different systems, right? But if it fails, if it doesn't work out, perhaps because it's not suited for you, perhaps it was not the right time, people weren't ready, you always have this basic level to come back to. So you don't have everything to lose. So I think that is the first and foremost important step. Now comes the exciting bit. Jonathan sees that he's got a solid foundation, but there's still a massive gap between where he wants to be, this pressure that he sees in Industry 4.0, where he sees that there is a massive gap. What's the first thing he needs to do? He needs to put a plan down. So he needs to learn about Industry 4.0, he needs to explore, he needs to talk to people, he needs to understand what it means. Obviously, for any manufacturing business, ROI plan is absolutely important. How is it going to benefit me or the bottom line of my business? Next, you can't start to target every different process in your company simultaneously. I think it's very important to get some quick wins and try to target some low-hanging fruits, things that can be transformed very, very quickly. Simple things like we do audits every 4 months in a factory shop floor. Let's try and use a digital system. Let's try and do that first, right? Let's see what that brings. And what that does is, if you get quick wins, it motivates you. So I could go into the gym now and lift everything that's in there, but I'm pretty much going to be the same. What I need to do is I need to go back in on Tuesday, on Wednesday, Thursday. I need to go back, and it's the repeatability that will actually bring results, right? So it's small, quick wins that I need to get under my belt, which gets me motivated, and now I'm on a journey where I'm trying to explore different things. With quick wins, what you will realize, you've done some automation, which has freed some of your time up. So a lot of updating Excel sheets or PowerPoints and things like that is actually taking a lot of your time up. What you need to do is create capacity to change. Once you have automated that, you now have time to think about what the next steps are. How can I get closer to the Industry 4.0? And you're finally starting to take steps towards Industry 4.0 now. Now, when you create capacity for change, you are happy to venture into newer things, which brings an innovation culture. And what is innovation culture? Innovation culture is the ability to go out, explore, and accept failure. So I'm going to try something new, and it might fail me, but I'm happy doing it. And why do you want to do that? Because if you try something new and you fail at it, it brings out the gaps that might be in terms of digital skills, that might be in your processes, that might not be ready. And this is when you will identify what are the digital skills that my people need for me to take this step forward. And so you need to focus on them, right? We had this discussion yesterday where we're very happy carrying around these powerful processors in our pockets, which will look at my face and unlock my phone and do all of that, but I wouldn't use a digital system on my factory shop floor. And that's something we all need to think about. Finally, when you start getting into, now you're thinking digital. Now it's like speaking a whole new language. You're not thinking in your native and converting each time, and you're not limiting yourself with what you can say or think. You are now constantly thinking about what are the different technologies and how I can implement them. And finally, you relate it back to your ROI plan. I've done all of these different things, and I thought this is what it would bring to me, your ROI realization. I'm at the final stage. I've put some systems in, I'm quite digital, what's the next step? Is it really making me money? Or it could be ROTI, it could be return on time invested. So I'll do this work for half an hour every week before a meeting, but I don't think I have 2 hours to automate it. It's that kind of thinking that we need to get out of, right? And this is how, this journey is something we at Valuechain call enablement. We see ourselves enabling businesses every day to finally get to Industry 4.0. And where they find themselves is in this continual cycle where they're then happy reinvesting some of that ROI and optimizing, plan, do, check, act at every point. We planned for this, we've done it, we're this far off, what is next? And then you open yourself up to what are people thinking about, what are the new technologies that are coming out, how could that work for me, or why that would not work for me. And both of these questions are very important. So how do I know this? It's because at Valuechain, this is what we do day in and day out. A quick word about this. So we did a project with Bentley Motors, which was a very, very simple data capture tool where they wanted to shoot out custom questionnaires about different parts to the factory shop floor operators that were on there. And targeted questionnaires were being returned. The operators, when they have a piece in front of them, could go out and answer those questions, and that was being taken back and fed back into the different iterations of optimization. And so it's that knowledge, if I may, that was contained within people, was being shared and was helping improve what they were doing. And for a company that has all the resources, knowledge and understanding about digital technology, it's brought about 48% saving. Imagine the scope that is in working with SMEs who are far behind this, who have massive amounts of things that can be changed, who are still paper-based, and some quick wins could bring great effect. We work with several clients all across the UK and Europe, and each one of these is a different story in itself. So again, if you work in the same space, or you know of anyone who works in the same space and would love to know more about how any of these have had a story that's similar to yours, or someone you're trying to help, please feel free to come and grab me or my colleagues today, and we'll be happy to share about this.